Are you facing challenges in your health? Then Dr. Suleiman Clinic and Labs is here to provide you with the lasting solutions to your health problems. Dr. Suleiman Clinic and Labs is specialized and offers consulting in psychiatry, internal medicine, cardiology, urology, dermatology, gynecology, infectious diseases, and infertility. At Dr. Suleiman Clinic and Labs, we offer 3D/4D scan at just 5,000 francs, emergency ambulance, free ultrasound scan, and free medical consultations. Our staff is composed of well-trained doctors with good laboratory and best equipment. We are located in 2 cities, Boya at Mile 18 Bolifamba, and in Douala, we are located at Entre Pilot. You can reach us through the telephone number 694-940-172. Your health is at the right place with Dr. Suleiman.
From the last show, I have got few phone calls requesting what is the difference between spiritually induced schizophrenia and chemically imbalanced induced schizophrenia. A lot of people think that they might have this, or one of the relatives have this or have that, and they want just an explanation. So I promise today we're going to touch up on how we differentiate, for the simple public out there, how to differentiate between spiritually induced madness and chemically imbalanced induced madness. They are totally different. If you out there and you suspect one of your friends or relatives or loved ones have schizophrenia and you want to know which one is which, simply ask them to produce 12 angles shape. I usually put 6 angles in one shape, next to it or overlapping another 6 angle shape. I don't have the drawing now, I will draw it for you. But most of the chemically imbalanced induced schizophrenia, they cannot reproduce that. They have a difficulty of making 6 angle shape. They can make 4, they can make 3 angles, but they can never make the 12 angle shape. You know, so we make 2 hex angle. Hex means 6 angle shape. They can never reproduce 6 angle shape. They cannot. This one is very much, most likely, is chemically imbalanced induced schizophrenia. The spiritually induced one, they can produce it. There's no problem. There's no problem. Now, let me explain to you. I know, we are doctors. We follow evidence-based medicine. When we're talking about spiritually induced, there is no evidence-based there. It's just like you getting Wi-Fi, you making phone calls through WhatsApp, through Wi-Fi, but you do not see the Wi-Fi. It's very much the same thing. You don't see it. Only those with experience, with patients, that can tell us more. Somebody like me, I've been seeing a lot of these cases. I can tell you that there is spiritually induced schizophrenia. Now, let me just give you a small explanation and clarification. When God created us, He made a spectrum of vision and a spectrum of hearing. And human can only get 5% of that spectrum. We can only allow to see 5% of everything out there. We can only allow to see 5%. Other entities, animals, for example, some animals, they can see infrared, suprared, ultraviolet. So other entities that God has created, they have the ability to see more than us. We only allowed that 5%. That is the general rule. Every rule has an exception. Those with schizophrenia, they have got extra, more than the 5% that every normal people out there can have. Those I'm talking about, the spiritually induced schizophrenia, they can see more. What had happened? That they are seeing more than us. And they are hearing, by the same token, hearing also is a spectrum. We only have 5% of that spectrum that allows to see what we see now. and allow us to hear what we hear now. We do not see supra-red, that's another wave. We do not see infrared. We do not see ultraviolet. We don't have the capacity. God has not given us this capacity to see. Other entities have those capacities to see. Those with spiritually induced disorder, they have the capacity to see more than 5%, that 5% that only human can see. And they have the capacity to hear more than that 5% that God allows us to hear. So they have the extra dose of hearing, the extra dose of seeing. That's why they see what we don't see, and they hear what we don't hear. Now, there are other signs and symptoms that also can tell us that this is a spiritually induced disorder. Like what? Dreams, very crucial. You dream about scary things, dogs, snakes, dead people, falling from a high space, falling into rivers, seeing yourself in very unhygienic places all the times. Even sexual intercourse, vivid sexual dreams. This can all, if it's combined with patient seeing things and hearing things that you and I do not hear and see, this can give us more reason to believe that this might be spiritually induced schizophrenia. Now you're going to tell me, what are they saying? In the last session, we have given a video, we explored it. By the way, it's on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you will find it. Under My Media TV, you will find it there. Also on my page on Facebook, Dr. Suleiman Clinics and Labs, you will see it there. If you want to get a refreshment and see what they see scary faces. It happened that this disease happened to somebody that has the ability to draw and reproduce what he sees, and he showed us and told us what they see. Also, the internet is full of cases and simulation and patients talking about their own experience, what they see and what they hear. But now the target now is to explain, how do you know this one is spiritually induced, and how do you know this one is chemically imbalanced induced? And that is the difference between the two. The most important difference is the 12 angles. They cannot reproduce the 12 angles. Those are the chemically imbalanced induced. The spiritually induced, we have signs and symptoms, that they see. Most of those spiritually induced, they see the visual hallucination, what we call it in medicine, visual hallucination. They see what we do not see. The next question would be, what are they seeing? Like I said, with that video, the guy drawing scary faces, this is what he sees. Some others do not see clear faces. They see something else. They see shadows. Shadows. Yes, shadows. Especially at the corner of their eyes. They see shadows. They feel as if somebody is sleeping with them at night in the same bed. They feel like somebody with them all the time. Some of them do not see shadows, but they see dots, red dots, blue dots, red dots, black dots, sometimes white shiny dots. Those are the things they can see. With time, they will see more clear and they will hear more clear. I'm talking about they will hear the other entities that is, causing this spiritually induced disorder with them, especially schizophrenia. Now, the next question would be, can spiritually induced schizophrenia cause chemical changes in your body? Absolutely yes. That's why we have to combine medicine with the therapy, the spiritually psychotherapy that we do for those patients to get rid of those entities. Yes. The same with epilepsy. Some epilepsies are induced by spiritual causes. You do an EEG is normal. You do MRI, the brain is normal, and yet you have epilepsy. So this is also another manifestation of spiritually induced disorder. I'm not saying everything out there is spiritually induced, but we must differentiate between the two. We are doctors, we are trained for Western medicine. This is where we get our medicine from, because they are all textbook, all reference book, everything is Western medicine. Nobody can touch up on spirituality. This is something you gain during your experience. And those are things that are documented by video, and there are some research and studies on them to prove exactly what I have just said. I'm not imposing my beliefs on you. You don't have to believe if you don't want to, but this is the cases that I have encountered, video documented, and there are studies saying the same thing I'm saying. I'm not making it up. Now, we know clearly now what is the difference between spiritually induced and chemically imbalanced induced. And we see, we said chemically imbalanced induced, a patient that is mostly hear things that you and I do not hear. Spiritually induced, they hear and they see. And we explained to you the spectrum that God created us with. We cannot see infrared, we cannot see ultraviolet. Other entities, they can see ultraviolet, they can see infrared. Those people who are spiritually affected, they can see beyond the infrared, beyond the ultraviolet. They can see. So they can see the other entities that God has created out there that you and I cannot see. And does it bother them? Yes, because those things are not friendly. So it's not like, oh my God, this is nice, I want a friend. No, they're not friends. They are out there to hurt you. So how did I get them? What made them come to me and induce all these disorders and all this harm to me? Well, they don't come by themselves. When God created human, He shield human. That's why even the newborn is shielded. He cannot get affected by those entities. So religion has to do a lot with it. Being close to God has a lot to do with it. So those entities come in two cases only. Either you invite them yourself, or somebody send them to you. What we call witchcraft, and it's very common in Africa. Right? So somebody send them to you, or you invite them yourself. That is the only two conditions you can get affected. If you have a strong spirit and you are very close to God, less likely you're going to get this kind of spiritually induced disorder. Less likely. But can it happen? Yes. It can happen. Even if you're very close to God, Right? It can happen. Now, what is the treatment? We have to do a special kind of treatment. We call it spiritual psychotherapy. Spiritual psychotherapy.